Good afternoon. All right, let's try again. Good afternoon. Woo! All right, that was better. And welcome to Back to the Future. We are so glad to have you here today. I am Catherine Moga Bryant. I'm Deputy Assistant Secretary for the Division of Workforce Solutions, and I am going to be your host for the next couple of days. So I am delighted to see so many of you here today. It is fantastic to have you all here. And so we're taking a couple days to pause from our regular day-to-day activities, to take some time to learn from the past, to embrace the present, our present challenges and trends, and to prepare for the future. We have over 1,000 people here today, spanning, thank you, from all across the state and all across our education and workforce spectrum, which is really a testament to our partnership, which continues to expand and grow. Your presence here is proof that we have strong relationships that have been established over a long time and often an interesting history. So I know that we are all intently focused on finding innovative solutions to the workforce challenges in our state, and that's why we're all here today. And we're looking for opportunities to strengthen and reinforce our collaborations across our traditional regional and agency partnerships. And we know that it is through our partnership that we'll move forward. So throughout this conference, you'll have multiple opportunities to remember and reflect upon past accomplishments, of which there are many, many, many. To meet new partners, to gather new ideas that you can take back to your communities, and to gain confidence in your ability to think outside the box as you continue on this exciting workforce journey. So I have 4 things I'd like you to think about over the next couple of days. First, I'd like for you to be ambitious. Don't be limited by what we've done in the past or by what exists today, but think about what we can do and where we can go as a group of dedicated professionals. I want you to listen actively, because listening is how we learn, and learning is the foundation of innovation. Third, I want you to join forces. Meet some new people, make some new friends, develop a new partnership. It doesn't have to be somebody from your community, from your agency. It could be somebody from across the state, from a different agency. It could even be somebody in your own agency. Who knows? And finally, participate. You have 3 amazing days away from your regular day-to-day activities to be here and learn and do something powerful. So be ambitious, listen actively, join forces, and participate. And I know that you will find this year's conference full of new ideas and strategies that you can use in your daily work. And I really am looking forward to seeing each and every one of you over the next couple of days. So this is our 30th, yes, 30th annual NCWorks Partnership Conference. That's amazing, 30 years. And throughout this event, we'll be paying tribute to our legacy and using symbols of the past. And so some of you may know, some of you may not, that the gemstone for a 30th anniversary is the pearl. And so we'll be looking to our past to find new solutions and for our challenges of the present and the future. But look for that pearl theme throughout the next couple of days. And thanks especially to those of you who created a Pearls of Wisdom video to share with us, to share your insights and your memories from the past. These videos will be playing in the exhibit hall, where you can check them out today and tomorrow. And there's a lot going on in the exhibit hall, so be sure that you spend some time up there. Now, if you'll join me in watching this short video celebrating 30 years of the Partnership Conference.
Welcome to the NCWorks Partnership Conference, Back to the Future, the next 30 years. Today we mark the 30th time that workforce professionals from across the state have convened to learn, share, network, and to stay up to date on the national, state, and local workforce scene. The number in attendance has grown from the 350 who attended the first conference, held in 1988 at the Omni Europa Hotel in Chapel Hill. We've been here at the Curry Convention Center in Greensboro every year since, and this year have over 1,000 in attendance. The number and types of partners have also grown from the original group that planned and participated in the first conference to the extensive partnership that exists today, all focused on building a strong state economy that is fully inclusive and benefits everyone. As we look back, we realize that we are building on a legacy of commitment to service that has been firmly established by countless dedicated individuals who have left their mark. Through all the changes in culture, workforce trends, demographics, and technology, the NCWorks Partnership Conference remains constant and centered on the same principles on which it was founded. To provide an avenue that fosters greater, more meaningful collaboration across agency lines. To provide an opportunity to build vibrant relationships among an ever-expanding professional network. And to offer a platform from which to launch cohesive action to solve the workforce issues of the day. The conference reflects a workforce system that has evolved and changed, yet remains true to the values honed over these 30 years. Together we're making a difference as we continue to embrace this legacy of service, inclusion, and prosperity. Today, we live in a modern world where technological advances come so rapidly that we often struggle to keep up, where the necessity for continual learning and acquisition of new skills is a given, where our culture is changing, the workforce is aging, millennials are moving into leadership roles, where our state has grown by leaps and bounds to become the 10th most populous state, with one of the most diverse and vibrant economies in the country. We survived the Great Recession, which brought shuttered factories, long unemployment lines, and feelings of hopelessness for many. And we are still on the road to recovery, a recovery that we aim to make inclusive and lasting. We, as workforce professionals, have a vital role to play in reaching this reality. Several of the current trends we see in our workforce partnerships are tangible evidence of our system's response to the needs of our times and are highlighted in this year's conference. Greater business engagement through sector initiatives. Opportunities to learn skills through a variety of work-based learning options. Lifelong journeys through career development via career pathways. Continual and focused professional development in our own ranks. And collective impact as we partner in more innovative ways to include everyone in North Carolina's success. As we look ahead, we can never fully know what the future holds, but there are some changes we can anticipate. Ever-increasing use of automation in the workplace. The urgent need for workers to continually learn new skills and reinvent themselves. And the inevitability of rapid change. As we face the unknown together and continue our commitment to build a strong, resilient, flexible workforce for North Carolina, we must continue and strive to be proactive, knowing that along the way, we will also learn new skills, adjust to new realities, face new challenges, step into new roles, and find new solutions. The NCWorks Partnership Conference will be here, just as it has been for 30 years. Our vehicle for learning, sharing, networking, and staying current. As long as we're engaged in building, retooling, and re-energizing the workforce, as long as we stay true to the legacy of service and commitment, as long as we truly partner and collaborate, we'll continue together on this journey. And as we chart our course for years to come, let's reflect on these words.
If we rest in our achievements, if we resist the pace of progress, for time and the world do not stand still. Change is the law of life, and those who look only to the past or the present are certain to miss the future.
That is for sure. One thing we know is that change is the constant throughout life. And if we think about, take a minute just to think about where you were 30 years ago and how different your job was, how different your life was, how different your home was, your car, if you had a car. Just think about that for a second. And one thing we know for sure, that 30 years from now will be even more different than 30 years ago was. So, all right, now, I am pleased to introduce our very first special guest today. Napoleon Wallace serves as the Deputy Secretary for Rural Economic Development and Workforce Solutions for the North Carolina Department of Commerce. In this role, he manages the department's support for North Carolina rural communities, and he leads a team of specialists that make the necessary investments for business development and to spur economic growth. He also oversees the department's efforts to strengthen workforce services and streamline the delivery of those services to both job seekers and businesses. With more than 15 years of experience in finance and community development, Napoleon has served in a variety of roles. Prior to his current role, he was a social investment officer at the Kresge Foundation, working to make a difference in America's cities. He also worked at Self-Help, where he led several different community development initiatives. He is a native of Pitt and Beaufort counties, and he is the proud son of a teacher and a small business owner. He has a Bachelor of Science degree from North Carolina Central University and an MBA from UNC's Keenan Flagler Business School. Please help me in welcoming Napoleon Wallace to the stage.
Hello, everyone. So, as Catherine just said, my name is Napoleon Wallace, and I'm the Deputy Secretary of Commerce for Workforce Development and Rural Economic Development. Now, I've been in this role for about 7 months, and during this time, I've really had a great opportunity to get across the state to meet a whole lot of folks, both on the economic development side as well as the rural economic development side. And one of my goals in coming here, and one of the reasons why I asked Catherine if she wouldn't mind giving me a few moments to chat, is that I'd really like to, I've met a lot of you, but I'm really hopeful that over the next couple of days I'll be able to meet the rest of you. I think that at DWS, as well as within Commerce, a lot of our work, or really all of our work, is so reliant on great partnerships, exactly what this conference is all about. And so to the extent that any of you want to grab me over the next, couple of days, maybe it's, right after this, or maybe it's at the dance party later on, I would really love the opportunity to be able to chat with you. Now, as you just heard, my background is primarily in banking, philanthropy, investing, and then a little bit of time in health human services, where I was doing direct investments for the Kresge Foundation. And with all due respect to my prior roles, I must say that being given the opportunity to improve the quality of life and economic well-being of my fellow North Carolinians is the most gratifying opportunity I could have, and I'm very thankful for it. I imagine that this is the same reason that many of you do the work that you do, and why many of you are so committed to public service, and more precisely, why so many of you are committed to helping your fellow North Carolinians find livelihoods so that they can support themselves and provide for their families. Someone else that takes their job just as seriously and passionately as I do is North Carolina's current Secretary of Commerce, Tony Copeland. He has a vision for North Carolina's economic prosperity that includes incentives and infrastructure and all the other sort of blocking and tackling items that you'd expect from economic development. But it also centers around developing a strong workforce that can deliver for our companies. Secretary Copeland joined North Carolina's Department of Commerce in January of 2017. Earlier in his career, Secretary Copeland served as an Assistant Secretary of Commerce, leading the recruitment of nearly $12 billion in investment and creation of over 100,000 jobs here in North Carolina. In this capacity, he worked with numerous international companies in China, Japan, Europe, South Korea, Israel, as well as a variety of domestic partners. His experience is wide-ranging, including economic development and business leadership roles. And during the past decade, he was a partner at a major law firm and also had his own law firm, his own corporate law firm that focused on economic development. In addition, Secretary Copeland served as the Executive Vice President and General Counsel for a telecommunications company, where he led the company's growth from $38 million in total revenues to over $250 million in total revenues. He led the senior management team and secured $500 million in equity financing and planned and financed and installed more than 5,000 miles of optic cable in the Carolinas and along the eastern seaboard. How's that for broadband expansion? A native of Hertford and Perquimans County, which is my part of the world, Eastern Carolina, Secretary Copeland is also a graduate of Duke University and the Western Michigan University School of Law. And now, with that said, please welcome to the podium my boss and your Secretary of Commerce, Tony Copeland.
Thank you, Napoleon. 30 years ago, Napoleon wasn't even born. 30 years is a long time. You know, time is a long time. Driving here from Raleigh today, I was thinking about in 1969, I was sitting in the den with my grandfather, who was a veteran of World War I. He'd been in the heavy artillery in France. And I was talking about how frightening it must be. I was watching the landing on the moon. You know, we saw that it was televised. And I think it really did happen. And I talked about how, fearful that was. And he said, Tony, being a farm boy in 1917, leaving Norfolk, Virginia on a troop ship going across the North Atlantic in the wintertime, never coming up, that's frightening. And I don't think that's probably more frightening than it would be for you to go to the moon. That was just a few years from the time he was on a troop ship till we went to the moon. And now we're sitting here in 2017, and 14 years ago, I was riding within Roger Shackelford, who was one of you, going to see Pilatex. And that was the largest bankruptcy in the history of North Carolina. 5,000 people lost their jobs and their aspirations of a future. And that's what we're about here, about jobs and aspirations for a future for our children. I think all of us as parents want to wake up every day, and what we think about is we want to create a life for our children that's larger than the one they were born into. And that's really what we're about here. NCWorks, all of your partners, the public schools, community colleges, the universities, etc. As Napoleon just told you, I was sworn in January of this year. I am now a recovering corporate attorney. But Governor Cooper, my mission is to do that, to help you and work with you to create a future larger than the one we've come into, and to create the future. It's very important. It's something about that I'm passionate about. And to have this job is probably the greatest privilege I'll ever have in my life. It's not an obligation, it's a privilege. And I think all of us as public servants in some way, it should be seen as a privilege what we do. And we have the opportunity to create a future for everyone. You know, if we think about it, in 1950, we were the second poorest state in the country. It's unbelievable. Now, there were only 47 states then, but still, we were the second poorest state in the country. When I left Raleigh this morning, that's the second most educated city in America, sitting in the Research Triangle area, which is the highest per capita PhDs in the world. So there was a vision when all that was created about creating a future. And so I think we have to think about the future, and 30 years is an eternity, and it's a lifetime. 30 years from now, I probably won't be here, and many of you probably won't be here either. But once again, we're thinking about our children and what's going to happen there. You know, I meet with plenty of company executives that are talking about recruiting businesses and working with business and expansion. And the first thing they ask about is workforce and talent. No company is going anywhere where they think that talent's going to parachute out of an airplane and land there. That's where we fit in. Without talent, we will not have economic development. And I think it's our job to go out and preach that and work to create that every day. You know, right now, you read about in the paper, so economic development's a little different than it used to be when everything was clandestine and secret. Amazon published their RFP in the paper. So there's no secret we're working on Amazon. You know, their RFP says 50,000 jobs over 17 years. And I just got back from Cambridge meeting with some real estate people there. You know, they predict that 40% of that workforce will have more than a master's degree. So they're not going anywhere that we put. It's got to be at least a destination place where 40% of those people will locate. So you're going to hear highly educated labor pool, strong university system, excellent institutions of higher learning, and great community colleges and other training apparatuses. We have all of those. We have the equation, but it started a long time ago when people were seeing and creating this future. We have a lot of challenges, though. If by 2025, Governor Cooper and this administration can accomplish what we intend to do, to have the nation's top 10 educated workforce, a lot of work's going to have to take place. A much greater percentage of working adults must have education training beyond high school by 2025. We're predicted to shortly be the 8th largest by population state in the country. We're number 9 now, but we're rapidly coming up on number 8. I mean, that's absolutely incredible, the rapid growth that we're experiencing. So we're going to have to address all the skills gaps. It's not just graduating people from high school, or not even graduating people from college necessarily. We've got to continue to upskill people throughout their life. When I was in the telecommunications business, this is a very sort of trivial example of technological change. This is not a secret. We had the University of North Carolina system, all of their telephone operations. Well, Verizon put in friends and family. So you had kids could use cell phone for free of their parents. We lost $18 million worth of business in 4 months. Some people lost their jobs too. And that's the world we're in now, that's moving faster and faster and faster. There is no company that will probably exist as it is today, even in 5 years, at the speed of the change that's coming about. You know, today airplanes, many of them are made of metal. Honda Aviation, which is here, has 2,000 people making Honda jets right here in Greensboro, their global headquarters, out of composites, not out of metal. By 2025, 30% of all the automobiles manufactured will not have an internal combustion engine. We have nearly 200,000 people in North Carolina that make automobile parts. So what percentage of those may not have a job in 7 years? Our institutions of learning and training had better be getting in gear to prepare for that. That means I better be helping do that too, along with you. That's pretty simplistic things, but the automobile is such a huge part of our economy that if we're not addressing these type issues for the here and now, I mean, 7 years is no time if we think about it, putting that in place now, that perhaps a third of those 200,000 people that work here may be disrupted in what they're doing professionally. So, but the good news is, we're the third largest Daimler investment, Mercedes or what, in North America. We have 22,000 people working in Japanese companies. We have the two largest Chinese investments in America, with Lenovo and Shinwei, which bought Smithfield Packing. If you look at what's happening here, and everything we do is affected globally. You know, we talk about ending trade agreements, and we're talking about all those things. Well, most of those trade agreements, our farmers depend on selling their things pursuant to that. So if we end those, where are we going to sell our products? So sometimes we better watch out what we ask for, you know, in looking at this. But if I look at it, I go back and look at when Roger Shackelford and I were going to Pilatex in 2003. By 2008, we had largely made up many of those job losses, but we have not made up the losses that happened in manufacturing that we lost from 2008 on. We're at 4% unemployment, more or less, which some people say is a labor shortage, which I think it probably is in our metropolitan areas, but we still have areas with 7 to 8% unemployment in the state. You know, if you look around the state, about 80% of all the people live in about 20 counties out of 100. So our growth is disparate. We see the suburbanization of America. It's not just North Carolina, it's all over the country, and perhaps the world, if you travel the world. So we got to adapt to that. I heard broadband mentioned. I know a little bit about it, but you know, that's more and more important that we do that. Infrastructure. We have counties that are 40 miles from a natural gas line. They will never get manufacturing without natural gas. So if we look at these problems of rural, you know, development not taking place, we've got to look at the real underlying reasons. It's just not having commerce recruit an industry to go there. They're not going to go there, and what we have to work on, number one, is talent. There has to be a talent force there, or it's got to be a destination place where talent will move to. It's got to have the infrastructure, and then we've got to have a state with the taxation and incentives to work with that. We have all the pieces in place. We've got to work harder to put it back together. But I am privileged to work with you. I work for you. And together, I think we can work to create the future. I'm honored to work with Napoleon, sometimes at least. And you can tell Napoleon something, but sometimes you can't tell him much. But he's a great asset. He's a great asset to North Carolina, as you all are. And in closing, I want to say one last thing that, you know, I think all of us here, and I heard it mentioned today, I don't think any of us would be here without a school teacher. You know, I think many times they just don't go recognized enough. There wouldn't be any lawyers without school teachers. Perhaps that'd be a good thing, but there wouldn't be, you know, but I mean, I really think the education system is something that we really need to continue to focus on. Governor Cooper's committed to that. He's committed to working with you and leading the state forward. Thank you, and with that, I'll turn it over to Catherine.
Thank you, Secretary Copeland. That really put a lot of things in perspective, gave us a lot of things to think about as we begin our journey over these next couple of days. And I think just a reminder to be ambitious, to think innovatively, find those solutions. I'm now pleased to share a video with you from Governor Cooper. Unfortunately, he wasn't able to be here today, but he does send his regards and messages to us. And if you'll pay attention to the screen, we'll have a short video from the governor.
Hi everyone, I'm Governor Roy Cooper, and I'm excited to be a part of the 30th NCWorks Partnership Conference. Your work preparing our people for the jobs of today and tomorrow, listening to businesses, and connecting North Carolina talent to North Carolina jobs is critical to our state's success. You're helping North Carolina workers learn new skills, embrace new technologies, and build strong professional networks. And your work never stops. From kindergarten through high school and beyond, whether that means college, technical school, work-based learning, or all of the above, preparing for the careers of the future means striving to learn more. We know that investing in education is key to a strong economy. That's why I've set the goal to make North Carolina a top 10 educated state by 2025. We do that by increasing pre-K enrollment, high school graduation rates, and the percentage of adults with higher education degrees and credentials. Increasing opportunities for North Carolina workers also means listening to businesses to understand their workforce needs. When I talk to CEOs who are thinking about bringing their companies to North Carolina or expanding here, the number one thing they ask me is if we have the skilled workers to do the jobs they create. North Carolina's answer must be yes. Each of you plays an important role in answering that question. Whether you work with students, job seekers, veterans, businesses, or economic developers, your role in creating a strong North Carolina workforce is essential. So, learn and network while you're here. Then go back to your communities, recharged and refreshed to continue your great work. Thank you.
Please help me in thanking once again Deputy Secretary Napoleon Wallace and the Secretary of Commerce Tony Copeland. All right, and now, before we hear from today's featured speaker, I have a few important announcements about activities and events over the next couple of days. So first, I'm very pleased to announce that October is Workforce Development Professionals Month, and I want to offer my appreciation to each and every one of you out there. You work tirelessly to provide quality career and employment services for the people of our state. And your work requires extensive knowledge, patience, persistence, energy, and dedication. And your work makes a real and meaningful difference in the life of people every single day. And for that, I thank you. And if you were here last year, you might remember that we celebrated Workforce Professionals Month with our very first partnership festival with carnival games and a giant prize wheel. And we had so much fun, we're doing it again this year. So we invite you to the exhibit hall on the 3rd floor at 4:30 today to check it out, meet some new friends, play a few games, have a good time. Our festival is hosted by 3 professional associations that many of you are probably already members of. And if you're not, there will be people on hand to help you learn about their associations and how you can invest in your professional development. So this year's festival partners are the North Carolina Employment and Training Association, the State Employees Association of North Carolina, and the Southeastern Employment and Training Association. Let's give our partners a hand. In your registration bag that you picked up at when you got here today, there is a conference agenda that contains all the information you're going to need for the next couple of days. It has information on the workshops, the general sessions, the social activities, everything you need to know. We also have a great team of people at the registration desk that are there to help you. So if you have any questions, don't hesitate to stop by, say hello, ask them a question, and figure out where you're going to go next on your journey this couple days. Now, we also have, and I know many of you have already done this, but if you haven't, we do have a mobile app for our conference. So you don't have to carry around your conference book. You can just carry around your smartphone or other device, because I know a few people here probably have a smartphone with them. So download the mobile app, and you can find all the information you need about the conference on that app. And I've heard that somebody who has downloaded the app might get a prize. So if you're interested in a prize, download the app. Now, while you're in the exhibit hall, like I said, there's a lot going on there that you're going to want to check out. You'll want to stop by the EDSI booth, where you can have a professional headshot taken to use on your social media or email accounts. This is an amazing opportunity to go get a free headshot taken that you can use. So for more information on the Picture Your Future, you can check it out in your program. And special thanks to EDSI for making this available. It really is an amazing opportunity for all of us here. So during our time together over the next couple of days, there are 58 different workshops for you to choose from. It's going to be hard to choose because there's some really great ones out there. And we're also going to have 3 exciting general sessions. Today's opening session will go back to the future with Josh Davies, and I'm very excited to introduce him in a few minutes. Tomorrow morning, we're going to kick off the day with a session featuring the Futuristic 5. It's going to be 5 insightful speakers that are sharing their unique perspective on topics that are shaping the next 30 years. And you will certainly want to be here on Friday for our closing session, where we will be featuring Sean Derrick, who is known as, and I'm curious to learn more about this, but he is the speaker for the dreamer. So be sure you're here on Friday to learn more about what he has to say. And of course, one of the highlights of our conference is always our awards banquet on Thursday evening as we celebrate the 2017 Governor's NCWorks Awards of Distinction recipients. So be sure to be here as we recognize those individuals, businesses, and organizations that have truly accomplished something amazing. And we'll celebrate each of you for the hard work and dedication that you bring to your job each and every day. So as I mentioned, the exhibit hall is a great place to go, lots of things to do, and there are a number of fantastic exhibitors upstairs. There is a complete list of all the exhibitors in your conference packet, so be sure to go up there and learn more about the products and services that they have to offer. Now, this list will also double as a game card for exhibitor trivia, and you will have a chance to win $100 from the Southeastern Employment and Training Association. So check out that card and your registration information. It gives you the rules and the deadline to submit your entry. We also want to thank our sponsors. We couldn't have a great conference like this with so many of you here and so many great workshops and speakers. So we've got several great sponsors for our conference today. Our gold sponsor is the Center for Work Ethic Development. Our silver sponsors are Future Work Systems, Mayor, and National Business Training. Our bronze speakers are Chamorro Economics and Analytics, Geographic Solutions, North Carolina Housing Finance Agency, and Two Hawk Workforce Services. We also have some friends of the conference, EDSI, North Carolina Employment and Training Association, and the Southeastern Employment and Training Association. Let's give our sponsors a round of applause. Finally, we want to thank our conference committees, presenters, moderators, volunteers who have contributed to the planning and the delivery of this conference. It really could not happen without all the people who lend a helping hand. And there are hundreds of people who have helped. Whether it was reviewing applications for the awards, helping to plan the conference, coming up with ideas, submitting workshops, greeting you at the front door, stuffing bags, putting name tags in. There's a ton of things to do. And so I want to thank each and every one of you for all of your dedication and your contributions to making this conference a success. All right, now on with the conference. So our opening keynote speaker is sponsored by our gold sponsor, the Center for Work Ethic Development, and features their CEO, Josh Davies. The Center for Work Ethic Development is committed to developing foundational soft skills in everyone from high school students to returning veterans transitioning back into the civilian workforce. Josh describes himself as passionate about helping others make a difference in their lives, their job, and their community. Through his work as a speaker and a trainer, he has encouraged professionals all over the world. Training magazine named him one of the top 10 trainers under 40 in America, and the Denver Business Journal tapped him as one of Denver's 40 under 40. He is a published author and frequently cited in national publications such as the New York Times. And we know he knows a little bit about workforce because he's been appointed by the governor of Colorado to his second term on the Colorado Workforce Development Council, and he is chair of the State Education and Training Steering Committee. So let's go back to the future with Josh Davies. Please help me welcome him to the stage.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you. This is awesome. Oh, it is a true pleasure to be here in front of all of you today. I do not get a chance often enough to get in front of this many practitioners at one time, so I am super excited. Almost as excited as I am about the Back to the Future theme. I don't know about you, but growing up, Back to the Future was a huge influence on me. Yeah, I don't know if anyone else out there, I actually went as Marty McFly one year for Halloween, all right? Complete with the hoverboard. Here's the scary part about Back to the Future. If you haven't been paying attention, you remember all three movies, right? So he goes to the past, he goes to Wild West, and then he goes to the future. And it's this amazing future. And then you start to realize when you watch the movie again, that's 2015. We're already in the future, right? We don't have hoverboards around, we don't have any of these things, but yet things have moved at a rapid pace. And I will tell you what, they are going to keep moving at a rapid pace. One of the things that we're going to see a lot of change in are in jobs, right? We know that, right? Just so you know, required by law, the federal government passed an ordinance that at every workforce conference, someone has to show this slide from Georgetown University showing how many people are going to require different levels of education for different jobs. I'm getting it out of the way early. If you haven't seen this slide, now is your chance. But this, again, talks about the difference where we've been. In 1973, you can see over there, the dark red and the deep red, what you see there is that almost 75% of all the jobs in the United States were available to someone who had a high school degree or less. Almost 3/4 of the workforce. By the time we get to 2018, it's less than 1 in 3. All we know about the future is that we're going to need more and more educated people. Right? And Secretary Copeland talked about the need for that and what we're already doing, what the governor's doing here to help push that. But here's the scarier part. When you look at the future, by 2030, 80% of the jobs we don't even know yet. But we know is the jobs we're going to have today are going to go away. And I don't mean to disrespect Secretary Copeland. He talks about the auto industry and how dangerous that's going to be with improvement. Here's the really scary part. It's not the auto industry. If you look at by 2030, 99% of all retail jobs in America are going to go away. Do you know what the #1 job is in North Carolina? Retail. You know the job that has a 98% chance of going away? Transportation. You know the #2 job in North Carolina? Truck driver. We're looking at not thousands, but potentially tens and hundreds of thousands of people who are going to need new training and new jobs. Welcome to the future. All right? What do we know we're going to need? Well, we don't know a lot, but here's what we do know. There are certain skills that everyone agrees you're going to need as you go forward, and they're not technical skills. They're non-cognitive skills. Right? They're the basics. That's what employers are telling us. We need the basics. They'll train the rest because they don't even know what's going to happen next. Here's the scary part when we go back to the future. Let's look at today. At the Center for Work Ethic Development, we do a lot of research with existing employers. We ask them simple questions like, what are the skills that you need today more than any other? There's an organization we partnered with for 4 years in a row called Express Employment. They did a study with 1,500 hiring managers across the country. And every year for 4 years, they asked the same simple question. When you are hiring a new employee, regardless of whether or not this is entry level or a senior executive, what's the most important skill or characteristic you look for? Gives them a list of 20 to choose from, and then ranks them from 1 to 20. For 4 years in a row, what's interesting about this study is that the number one answer has not changed. And also the number 20 answer hasn't changed. What has is everything in the middle. Up on the screens on the side here, you will see 6 different answers: attitude, education, specific skills, job experience, work ethic, and work history. One of these answers, for the 4th year in a row, employers said was the number one answer. One of them was number 20. While you're looking at this list, anyone have a guess of what you think might be number 20? Specific skills? How many people say specific skills? Yes, right? We can train those. That's what employers tell us, right? We can train specific skills. That's why it's very low, but not number 20. Education? Raise your hand if you also agree employers are looking for dumb people. No one else agrees. Well, they're all wrong. Because here's what employers have actually said, is that education is the least important. Now, wow, that was really a mumber, right? You're like, whoa. For 4 years in a row, it's the lowest. Why? 2 reasons. Number one, education has almost become a price of entry, where you need to have it, but how you got it, where you got it, not nearly as important. But what employers are also telling us is there's a significant disconnect, especially in 4-year university, between the skills that employers are demanding and what we are teaching. We have to help bridge that gap. What do you guess for 4 years in a row employers have said is the number one thing they're looking for? Where are my attitude people at? Yeah! Okay, just a quick reminder. Center for Work Ethic Development. It's my opening slide, okay? What do you suppose employers said was the number one thing they were looking for? Work ethic! You guys are so smart! That's awesome. Now, before my attitude people cop an attitude on me, don't worry. Not only is attitude the number 2 skill almost every year, but what we've determined is that attitude is a key component, one of the most basic behaviors of work ethic. And we'll get to that in a moment. Right? Here's the problem with employers saying that work ethic is a skill they need today and in the future. How are we doing with that? Not good, right? Study after study shows some similar dangerous patterns. This one talks about employees self-selecting. That is, you get a choice to prove this. Asking people a simple question. Do you believe in work ethic? That whatever worth doing is worth doing perfectly. It then breaks it down by age cohort. What you can see on the far left-hand side, the number one group, where almost 3/4 of them strongly agree with that, older boomers. I won't point you out in the room, you know who you are, okay? Right? But what's scary about this is that every generational cohort from there just starts getting lower and lower and lower and lower. And now millennials, those who weren't around to see the first NCWorks Partnership Conference, less than half of them strongly agree with that statement. Right? And maybe you've seen some of the literature that's out there on this, right? This is one of my favorites, it's a Time magazine cover, talking about the me generation. If you can't see it in the back, let me blow up the byline for you. Lazy, entitled narcissists who still live with their parents. Boom, mic drops, right? Ouch! Right? If you start to read these stories, it's as if we will never recover from what millennials are going to do to the workforce. And this is a problem, right? Because millennials are the largest group that makes up the workforce, right? I mean, what do we say about them? They're privileged, right? They're narcissistic. they're entitled, they're spoiled, some are even promiscuous, right? They're dangerous. But what we do at the Center for Work Ethic Development is not given to pop culture. We do research, we do some analysis, and here's what's funny. When you start to look at the millennial generation entering the workforce, you notice a common trend over and over again, and it's not the millennial generation. It's the generation entering the workforce. Actually, this is a quotation from Life magazine in 1968, talking about baby boomers entering into the workforce. How about this quotation, right? This preening narcissists have to document everything with their cutting-edge communications technology. These people are going to be awful too, said Newsweek magazine in 1985 about Gen Xers entering into the workforce. The only thing that's changed is our technology. Thank God no one of you have to haul around that shoulder-mounted camcorder anymore, right? What you start to see over and over again is it's not a problem with a generation. It's a problem with people entering into the workplace. And when you combine that with some societal factors that we've seen, we set ourselves up for trouble. Because the skills that we need now more than ever, and will need in the future, we just are not developing. So I want to talk today about how we can go back to the future and develop those skills. So let's start with a quick work ethic 101, if you will. Let's talk about where work ethic comes from and how we can do something about it. Let's start with this problem right here. Work ethic is hard to define. If I were to ask each one of you right now to define work ethic, we'd probably come up with 1,000 different definitions. The problem is, for many of us, when you think of work ethic in your head at first, it's about hard work, right? It's about putting in that time. If you were to do a Google search to look for articles about work ethic and have it delivered to your inbox every morning, you would see that almost every one of them were about athletes who put in extra practice time at the beginning and extra practice time at the end of the day. And that was all that work ethic was about. Well, here's the problem. You all know this person at work, right? He or she is the first person in the door in the morning, and the last person in the door to leave, and the least productive person you work with, right? Right? Make sure they're there before everyone else. Make sure everyone knows they're there before everyone else, right? The whole day they're like, oh, I'm working so hard. I had to come in this weekend. You wouldn't believe it. I'm going to be here till everyone else leaves, and then as soon as the last person's out the door, I'm leaving with them. Work hours alone are not what employers are looking for. When we asked them to define work ethic, they had a whole list of different behaviors. It wasn't just hours. How productive are you? How's your attitude, right? How are you working with teams? This list was a little onerous, so what we did at the Center for Work Ethic Development, we came up with a way to help remember it. What we say that employers are looking for is attitude, but also attendance, appearance, ambition, accountability, acceptance of others, and appreciation of those that they work with and for. Or what we would tell people to remind them is to bring their A game to work. Here's the problem. These things seem like common sense, right? Like, duh. Here's the problem. What we've realized, common sense has stopped becoming common practice. All right? So we look at the research as to why this happened and what happened. And we go back to this theory that people keep throwing out, that millennials have a problem with this, that there's something just genetically different about people born within this block. So what we did is we looked at some different studies. And fortunately, the Journal of Psychology came out with a study late last year with a very important meta-study. That's right, it's a study of 77 studies. And it came up with a very firm philosophy. It said very simply, right, that the 3 hierarchical multiple regressions found no effective generational cohort on work ethic endorsement. So we should stop. What the heck does that mean? Like, I do research, and this is why I can't read it for more than a half hour at a time, because my brain's like, fortunately, there was a picture in the study, so I just put a picture of that, and here's what it shows. 3 different generations. Averaged all 77 studies together, and here's what they found. There was virtually no difference in the work ethic scores between each of the 3 generations. What I do want to point out, as a proud member of the forgotten Generation X, that there's one generation that did score above everyone else, and that is us. Okay? Latchkey Kids unites! Okay, it's 0.03, so really there's nothing to brag about there, okay? But the reality is that that is not the problem. The problem is that the foundational basis of where we got work ethic from has been eroding. The 4 primary places have just started to go away. When you think about your work ethic, where would you say most of you developed your work ethic? Parents and your family, right? You're sitting around the dinner table, you're talking about the important issues of the day, right? You're just there with your brother and your sister, right? Okay, this is an ad. No one's table has ever looked this good for dinner, okay? But here's what we've noticed. It's a generational trend that's cutting across all eras. We call it the Twitterization of conversation, right? That more and more people are texting each other instead of talking. Those of you who all have teenage kids, you know this, right? If you want to get your kids to come to dinner, are you going to yell up to them? Good luck on that one, right? You send them a quick little text message, maybe a little emoji, they'll be right down, right? But it's hard to have good communication in 162 characters or less. In fact, we've seen this really impacting family dynamics. Here's what I want you to do. I want you to grab out a writing utensil if you want, or if you're one of those people that needs to type it out on your phone or your pad, you can do that too. But I want you to write down a number. I want you to write down the number of hours per week you think that a typical parent spends in meaningful dialogue with their school-age children. So how many hours per week does a typical parent spend in dialogue, other than where are you, where's your brother, where's your sister, per week in meaningful dialogue? So school age, anywhere between kindergarten and 12th grade. Write down the number of hours per week you think it is. Second time I've gotten a murmur from the crowd. I like this. All right, no pressure at all, people, but you have 7 more seconds. I'm sorry. Secretary Copeland took too much of my time. Okay. He's out of the room now. I can say that, right? All right, that is time. So let's do a quick show of hands. If you have more than 10 hours, raise your hand. Raise your hand if you've got more than 10 hours. Kind of look around the room. I'd call that a smattering of people. All right. 5 to 9 hours, raise your hand. All right. 3 to 4. 1 to 2. Holy negative, bad man. Rare. Well, then it may surprise all of you people that the typical parent spends 15 minutes per week. In conversation with their children. Now who's negative, right? You're like, wow, 1 hour's pretty optimistic at this point, right? Wow. Now, what's interesting is we don't have any data that proves that that's a bad thing. Anecdotally, I know that is, but I don't actually have any data. Where we do have data is from a University of Minnesota study that came out in 2015. It looked at young people over 25 years to look at what inputs happened over their childhood that had the most dramatic input on their outputs when they were adults. They looked at things like parents' income, education level, gender, race, zip code, found none of those things were the most important. The most important influence early in childhood on external output was doing chores. And here's what, I'm glad you're applauding. Here's what's depressing, all right? In 2014, a study was done asking parents a simple question. Parents, did you have to do regular chores growing up? Yes, right? 82% of us said yes. That same group of parents was then asked, do you make your children do regular chores? 28% said yes. This philosophical shift in a single generation is huge. And again, it is driven by something we've already talked about today. This idea or this desire for parents to make life better for their children. Right? A lot of us were thinking, I got into fights with my parents all the time. I hated doing chores. I don't want my children to do it. But the reality is, the University of Minnesota says it is the best indicator for future success. Those of you parents, feel free to take a picture of this, text it to your kids, right? 2 things just so you know from the study if you don't want to read it. Number 1, the earlier you start to do chores with your children, the more effective it is. And number 2, it doesn't matter how difficult the chore is, just that it's done on a daily basis and that there is some sort of desire, that there's some sort of punishment if it isn't done. Right? There's an expectation. Chores not happening in the family, family's not talking, family's falling apart. That's a problem. So then whose responsibility is it to teach these important skills? The teachers and educators, right? Here we are in our happy classrooms, right? We've got all time to focus on these kinds of life skills, right? No, all right? Without getting on a political soapbox, let me just talk about unintended consequences. When the No Child Left Behind Act passed more than 20 years ago, we focused on an idea that was very important, accountability in education. The way we found to measure accountability was testing. We're looking at student progress. So what do we now do a lot in school? Test and test and test. Typically around cognitive skills, English, math, science. All right? So we spend all this time there. We combine that with something else that's happened over the past 10 or 15, in case 7 years, and that's education spending. I know most of you can't read this, don't worry. I'm going to summarize this chart for you. This chart up here lists all 50 states in the United States and their education spending per pupil over the last 7 years. All the states in red have had declines, many of them significant, led by our good friends in Oklahoma with more than a negative 22% increase. You'll find North Carolina about halfway down, and I'm excited to say this is one of the few times that having us below South Carolina is a good thing, right? They actually have less education spending than we do. When you look at the bottom, there's only one state that has a significant increase, North Dakota. And I will tell you right now, all 8 of those kids are getting a phenomenal education, okay? They are crushing it. All right. For those of you who have friends or friendly in North Dakota, there are more than 8 children there, okay? But what this was driven by primarily was a huge oil and gas discovery in western North Dakota that drove up property taxes, increased their revenues. Now that oil is back down to $50 a barrel, I think North Dakota will be joining the rest of us on the other side. So you combine this emphasis on testing, specifically cognitive skill testing, with the decline in revenue, something has to give. So what classes have been declining in American education across the board? It's not science, it's not math, it's not even fine arts. It's career and technical education. The only place we've seen a significant decline over the last 20 years. The one place where many of us learned these work-based common sense skills, whether or not that was home ec, don't call it that anymore, by the way, it's family and consumer sciences, okay? Auto shop, DECA, wherever you were. It's not happening. So let's summarize. Families falling apart, schools no longer focusing. So who's left to teach? Early people who are working, right? Think about your first job. Anybody here have a really, really awesome first job? Like 4 of you. The rest of you are like, do you consider McDonald's an awesome job, right? All the fries you can eat off the floor. It's awesome, right? Growing up in a small town in Nebraska, you had basically 2 choices, fast food or detasseling corn. Those of you who have done ag jobs know your hands will never be the same after you've done them, right? Regardless of what type of first job you had, you oftentimes learned these life skills, these common sense work ethic behaviors in those jobs, right? Show up on time. Do what your boss tells you. Manage your money. Show up even when you don't want to, right? Here's the problem, we're facing an epidemic of youth employment. This is an interesting chart. It shows over the last approximately 80 years, since the Bureau of Labor Statistics started keeping statistics, youth employment, 16 to 19-year-olds engaged in the labor market. What you'll notice is this kind of goes up and down, hits its peak around 1980 or so. And now what you'll notice is it has trailed down and we are below 30%, with forecasts to go even lower. That means less than 1 in 3 16 to 19-year-olds has a job. Summer employment. If you're thinking that may be a place for someone working, not at all. Again, declining since the 1980s, that's slightly higher at almost 42%. Woo! We're still less than half have even a summer job. Young people are not working in America, and the reason why they're not working is pretty simple. We think sometimes we hear stories that older people are taking those jobs and they're not getting to them, or the minimum wage is too high. The reality is, when you look at the data, here's what it shows you. That red line at the bottom since 1994, that is the young people across America who are looking for work and can't find it. What do you notice about that red line? It's not going anywhere, and it's low. You'll notice the blue line at the top, over 1.2 million 16 to 19-year-olds not working, driven by that yellowish blue line right below it, and that is young people who don't want a job. No one's making them work, so they're not going to. The problem and the conundrum that we have and we know is that in certain communities where we need employment, people can't find work, right? Our African American, our Hispanic communities typically have 2 to 3 times the level of youth unemployment because they can't find jobs. Yet where jobs are plentiful, youth don't want to work in them. So, family falling apart, school focused on the wrong thing, no one's working. Great. So now who's going to teach us about the value of work? How about pop culture and mass media? As Dr. Phil would say, how's that working out for you, right? Have you seen this ad on TV lately, right? No, because the US government stopped spending money on ads like this in the 1920s. Now, what do you see ads for? A pill that will magically solve all of your problems, right? minus the 15 seconds of side effects, right? Like, may cause death. I'm like, really? If you're allergic to what's in Xanadil, stop taking it immediately. Duh, right? The other ad you see for a lot of injury lawyers, right? What do we say is the pathway to success? It's the lottery, right? It's getting T-boned by a semi, and the strong arm will get you $2.5 million, even on the weekend. Just give me a call, right? You see on TV the number one type of show, reality TV. What skills do you need? Right? Pretty much be able to cause drama, right? That's the number one skill you need to get on reality TV. Have you ever had an employer in an interview sit down with you and be like, all right, you know, we have a lot of openings here, but we really need someone who can bring drama to the office. We just don't have enough of that here. Do you think you could bring drama to our company? Right? No employer ever said that. It's the one skill no one wants. Right? The reality is, people don't see work on TV as valuable. They almost see it as a stigma. I saw this sign the other day. I had to take a picture of it. I thought it was great, and I really appreciated Robin helping me get on Wednesday, because to me it speaks about giving 100% at work, and it is so true. I'm not saying anything about the keynote on Friday, but y'all better be here and break this, okay? Break this for me. Or at least make that your 5% for Friday. So the problem with all this, right, is the places where we develop these common sense behaviors all are going away. Family, school, work, pop culture. And so now we're left with the results, the impact of this. And it impacts us in a lot of different ways. One of the places it impacts us in our ability to get even a basic education. When you look at people who are really strong in work ethic, that's on that far right-hand side, what you'll notice is almost 100% of people in strong work ethic graduate from high school, and over 60% graduate from college. People with a low work ethic on the far left-hand side, just over 80% graduate high school, and under a quarter of them will ever graduate from college. And this has a huge impact on us in our labor market. Right? You all know, we know in the workforce space, the problem with America today is not that we don't have enough jobs. Right? There are almost 6 million open jobs in America today. When you look at the numbers nationwide, there are 6 million unemployed people today. What's the problem? The skills gap. Right? We don't have the skills that employers are looking for. And that's what we have to try and develop. And that's what you all are doing every day. How do we help get them the skills employers in our community need? The problem when you talk to employers is the skills overwhelmingly they say they need aren't technical. They're not computer skills. Almost half the time, they're the soft skills, the basic skills. I can't tell you the number of times I talk to employers. And I'm like, all right, so I'm working with the local workforce. We want to know, what do you need, right? Do you need more CNAs? Do you need more CDLs? Do you need more people with, master's degrees? What do you need more of? And they say this to me every time. They say, Josh, here's what I need. Can you send me somebody who will show up every day, get along with their coworkers, and piss a clean drug test? If you can send me somebody who can do those 3 things, I will hire every single person you send me. Right? In some way, shape, or form, I bet you hear the same thing as well. Right? Because that's what employers are saying they demand, right? They say that soft skills are as important, if not more equally important, to hard skills when making that hiring process. When we go to interview, employers say overwhelmingly 93% of the time that we're looking for soft skills in the interview process. Here's our problem with common sense. You ask job seekers, how important is it for you to demonstrate soft skills in an interview? Like, I don't know. Show up on time for the interview. Put your phone away during the interview. Know what you're interviewing for. Now, those of you who teach interview workshops, you know what I'm talking about, right? Because here's what they say. Only 16 of them say it's very important. When asked, why do you think it's not important to demonstrate soft skills in the interview process, number one answer they give me? Because it's just practice. Let that sink in for a moment. Why? Because we know soft skills are the differentiator in success. Study after study, 100 years ago, Harvard did a study, Stanford just backed it up. 85% of all success in the workplace comes from soft skills like work ethic, not from what you know. Forbes magazine looked at this over 20,000 employers, entry level all the way to senior managers. Tracked people for a year and a half, found after a year and a half, almost half of them, 46%, had been fired from their jobs. And no one gets fired, right? When is the last time you remember somebody who got fired because they were incompetent? Here's the reality for most people today. If you show up on time, if you're a good team player, if you're friendly with your coworkers, how long can you keep a job? almost forever. You plan the Christmas party, you are employee of the month once a year, right? That's where we are. So we have to try and develop work ethic somehow. But it's not that simple. So everybody, do me a favor. Can I get you all to stand up for me? Oh, crap. Yes. We've reached that portion of the program. All right, everybody, take your 2 fingers, point them above your head. All right, we're going to probably need to get me on the screen up here just so you can see me. All right, here's what I'm going to ask you to do. All right, I'm not on the screen yet. Okay, we'll get there. All right, take your 2 pointer fingers, put them on either side of your nose. All right, cool, cool. This is the outcome. This is what we want to achieve. All right, great. Put your hands down. Let me show you how we're going to get there, because it's simple, people. You put your hands out, okay? You cross your hands over. You link your hands together. You take that fist, put it underneath. Put your 2 pointer fingers up on either side of your nose. And you let your hands go, and you're here. Not going as well as I had hoped. All right, let's try this again. Can everybody do this? Okay, we can get here, right? This is simple, people. All right, here we go. Hands out. Cross your hands over. Link your hands together. Hands underneath. Fingers come up. And let go. I was told this was a very competent group. I'm feeling a little worried now. All right, so let's take this a step back. There may be some secrets or some little things that maybe you need to know that will make this seem simpler. So let's do this. Let's try one final time. Put your hands out here in front. Let me give you some tips, maybe some strategies, okay? So let's take our right hand over our left hand, but when we do, keep your palms facing each other, all right? Then when you link your hands together, our natural tendency is to take our right hand and go underneath. What I want you to do instead, take your left thumb and your left hand and put it underneath. How's that feel? A little weird and awkward. Yeah, okay. But then when you put your hands up, this part's very important. Slowly raise your 2 fingers, keep them in a V. Put your 2 fingernails on either side of your nose. So your fingernails, not your finger pads, your fingernails are on your nose. Then when you let go, some of you are like, I found the Holy Grail. Some of you are like, I still don't get this. The good news is we've got 3 days here in Greensboro, people. We can keep practicing. All right, in the meantime, have a seat. All right. I look at this and I go, this is common sense. You should have no problem doing it. And you're like, I don't get it. That's the problem with people. Right? It's not common practice. So let me give you some tips that you can use to help develop work ethic with your customers, with the people you work with, or with your children, as the case may be, all right? So some simple strategies in developing work ethic I want to give you. Number 1, you have to create awareness. Why? When you ask people, how good is your work ethic? Who thinks that they have a bad work ethic? No one, right? You ask the coworker, right? Who has a bad work ethic around here? I'll tell you who has a bad work ethic, Sally. Sally is awful. I'm great. Sally sucks, right? How do I know Sally's bad? Sally takes 6 smoke breaks a day. And when I'm out there talking to her, she's just complaining about people all the time. Right, no realization. And this happens all the time. We looked at 6,000 workers. Asked them, these were younger workers, but it could be anybody. Simple question. When you're at work, do you describe yourself with any of these expressions? Do you think you are hardworking? Do you think you are people savvy, tech savvy, loyal to your employer? All these different things. Here's what they came up with. These millennial employers said they were not very people savvy or tech savvy. They were people savvy. They were loyal, and they were hardworking. Real interesting self-observation. Those of you, some of you are like, really? Because then we asked their bosses. And their results were slightly different from the others. I love loyal to your employer. 1. We may have some disagreement of opinion there, right? Right? Here's the problem. Nobody thinks they have a problem. We did a partnership with an organization that does pre-employment testing for Burger King. They do a pre-employment online testing, and they send it out to everybody else to figure out whether or not they get an interview. Only 10% of the people who take the assessment pass the work ethic assessment and get an interview. The other 90% fail. The people who ran it felt bad about those people, and so what they did is they said, let's do a partnership. We said, fine, we're testing a new online training. So let's take everyone who fails the assessment, send them to our website, and offer them free training to improve their work ethic so that hopefully they can do better next time. Thought it was a great idea. So the top client they have is Burger King. Burger King nationally has about 1 million people who apply for jobs every year. That means 900,000 should fail. They were a little bit more lenient, so they gave it to both green and yellow people, just so you know in the test. So that means we had 800,000 people, 800,000 applicants who failed the work ethic assessment, got sent to our website to get the opportunity for free work ethic training. Of those 800,000, what percentage do you think took us up on our opportunity for free work ethic training? Now, we wanted to do this so that we could test to figure out whether or not it worked and whether or not people liked it. So we wanted to get a good sampling size to work for. What percentage? No. 1 person. Out of 800,000 people. You would expect more people to accidentally fall asleep and click the link. 1 person. Now, I will say this. She loved the training and thought it was highly effective. So we have 100% success rates, okay? Just saying, I'm just saying. All right? But the reality is, nobody thinks they have a problem, even people who can't get an interview at Burger King. All right? Nothing against those people, all right? But self-awareness is something we have to create, because nobody thinks they have a problem. We have to let them discover it. All right, tip number 2 I have for you. It's very simple. You want to think sort of like a meme. Are you familiar with internet memes? They've been around for a long time, since the 1700s in France, but internet memes have taken over. Probably the most famous one, right, is this one. All right, keep calm and carry on. This is from a poster in World War II in Britain, where they were like, hey, let's just relax, and everyone kind of do your normal thing. What's taken that new life is that what they do is they take something that's old and they add something new to it. So it has context, right? So you say, keep calm and study hard, right? You're already talking about keeping calm. Now we're going to say, hey, you should also study while you're doing this, right? Oh, I'm getting ready for that. Okay, yeah, I get it, right? Or maybe, let's just keep calm and let's eat chocolate. All right? Or let's keep calm and go Panthers! Woo! I was going to do a local sports college, and I'm like, I'm not going to get in that fight down here. Not going to do it, right? Here's the reality. This works because you take something that people already know and you add something new. You add context. We already know that no one thinks they have a work ethic problem. So if you tell them to work on work ethic, they're not going to realize they need it. But if you talk about, hey, here's in an interview how you can display ambition, it all of a sudden has context. Here's in a workplace, when we talk about how you work with the customers, when you work with the coworkers, here's a way you can show appreciation. Now they find there's a way they can do it, it makes sense, it's contextual. Think like a meme. How do I know this? Okay, I don't always teach work ethic, but when I do, I use memes. All right, let's move on. All right, next one. Let's talk about being a supermodel. How many people here want to be your piece of paper one fold. Fold it then in the opposite direction. Then turn your piece of paper sideways and tear off the upper right-hand corner again. Next, do me a favor, unfold it one fold a second time. Now fold it the direction you haven't folded it yet. And now tear off the corner that is closest to you and drop it on the table in front of you. Then, do me a favor, unfold your piece of paper all the way, hold it out in front of you, and let's open our eyes and compare it with everyone else at our table. This did not also go as well as I had planned it to. I was hoping, I see some of you have 2 holes, some of you have 1 hole, some of you have no holes, some of you have like a mask, you're getting ready to rob a bank, I won't tell anybody. Some of you have thrown your piece of paper in 2. Like seriously, I gave you all the same simple instructions. But what wasn't I? I wasn't explicit because I thought the instructions were simple enough and that anyone should be able to follow them. If you want to teach these basic soft skills, even though they seem simple to you, you need to be explicit about exactly what the behavior means. What does it look like? We talk about attitude all the time. You have to have a good attitude. What does that mean? Right? So we define attitude this way. Take control of the way you react. Don't let a bad moment become a bad day. You want to ask people if they have a good attitude. That's how you can tell. But you need to be explicit in what you ask for. But you also need to not think that people can do all that much at one time. Regardless of which of the 7 behaviors we're talking about, sometimes it has to be an incremental change. Now, I know a lot of you out there aren't runners. I am. All right? So if I were to tell you today, how many of you in 90 days would want to train with me and run a marathon? 2 of you, right? Not too surprising. How many of you would want to train with me for 90 days and run a 5K? Anybody up for a 5K? Oh, a lot more of you, right? What's the difference? A lot, right? If you want to be specific, it's about 26 miles, right? Here's the reality. Human beings don't like big change. We don't like big things. We like them small. If you want to have people improve their soft skills, help them with incremental small change. The smaller we make the change, the more likely they are to do it. We say this, can you be 1% better tomorrow than you were today? If you're just 1% better each and every day, you'll have 125% improvement in the skill over 40 days. Little things add up. And sometimes those little things make a big difference in and of themselves. Right? I'm not, but I know plenty of you out here are grammar nerds, right? So you take a simple sentence where you've got a normal person like me, right? What do I love? I love to cook. I love my kids. I love pets, right? Simple as that. What's a 1% change to this sentence? You remove the commas. Then what happens to me? I'm a sociopathic killer who loves to eat their own children, right? Let me boil up some Cat and Johnny tonight, right? Little changes can make a huge impact. So finally, let's do this. Can I get everyone to stand up for me? All right. What I want you to do, I want everyone to face me. Get your feet firmly on the ground, plant them seeds, put your 2 hands in front of you as if you were a giant arrow. Now here's what I'm going to ask you to do, keeping your feet down here. Everyone remember your left from your right? Right, left, this way, right? Okay. What I'm going to do when I say go, I want you to keep your feet in the ground, twist your arms and your body, and I want you to go as far to your left as you can go. Not yet, I didn't say go, okay? This way you don't hit people, okay? When I say go, you're going to go twist as far as you can to the left. Let me repeat that. You're going to go as far as you can to the left. We're going to find a spot on the wall, the back of someone's head, wherever, and then we're going to come back to center. All right, here we go. On your mark, get set. Let's go as far as we can to the left. Find your spot, and then come back. All right, good. Shake it out for me. Okay, we're going to do this real quick. I need you to keep your feet on the ground, hands in front of you as if you're a pointer. And what we're going to do when I say go, you're going to turn to the left again. I want you to remember that spot you were at, and I want you to go about an inch further, okay? Just that's it. All right, here we go. Feet on the ground, and let's go. Let's see if we can get just an inch further and back. All right, good. How many of you were able to go further the second time than you were the first? Okay, that's right. You're obviously not listening to me anymore. The instruction I gave, right, was to go as far as you could go. And yet almost everybody went further. So much for as far as we could go, right? Because here's the reality. When you ask people to go as far as they can go, they're going to go as far as they can go comfortably. What we want to do is we want to push for a little bit more. Ask your people to go to a place where they're just a little bit uncomfortable, because that's going to put them where they learn and grow. Because if you just go to where you're comfortable, it's easy to come back to normal. When you go that extra bit, that's when growth happens. Look, we know the future is changing. We have no idea what it holds, but we do know this. Foundational soft skills, the work ethic, is what's going to get us there. Because here's the reality, people. The future is now. The future is today. And if we want to develop the skills of the future, we know it's the work ethic that's going to get our clients, our customers, our job seekers, and our kids where we want them to be. Thank you. Let's make the next 30 years awesome.